which is, as I said, that depends only on the geometry. So we have not considered any of the forces that are acting on the continuum, right? And so now we will go towards the next chapter, that is the balance laws now. So let us look at balance laws, where we will now consider the forces that are acting on the continuum. So so far we have not introduced the concept of a stress tensor, for example, right? So this is where we will introduce this concept of a stress tensor and then derive the partial differential equations in terms of the stress tensor. And then at a later stage we will also introduce what is known as a constitutive relation for a material. So that will link the stress to the strain. And we have already seen in the kinematics part that the strain is connected to the displacement, right? So finally your stress gets connected to the displacement, and so once you get the partial differential equations for the stress, you can also write them as partial differential equations in the displacement field. So that is the procedure that we are going to follow. So regarding this balance law, so as far as thermomechanics is concerned, we have 5 balance laws. So balance of mass, balance of linear momentum, then balance of angular momentum, then first law of thermodynamics, and second law of thermodynamics. Okay, so as far as this course is concerned, actually we will not cover first law of thermodynamics and second law of thermodynamics. So we will be dealing almost exclusively with the first 3 balance laws, that is the balance of mass, balance of linear momentum, and balance of angular momentum. Okay, so we'll so here it should be angular. I'm sorry, it should be angular. Yeah. So we'll deal only exclusively because this is a beginning level class. So yeah. So because this is a beginning level class, so hence we will not consider the first law of thermodynamics and the second law of thermodynamics. We will restrict ourselves only to these 3 principles here: balance of mass, linear momentum, and angular momentum. And as I said, that we will also define the stress tensor and derive the governing differential equations for the stress tensor and so on and so forth. So our idea here is that we will derive all the equations in tensorial form. So for example, we will look at what is known as the incompressibility condition. So for example, the incompressibility condition we will write as del dot B equal to 0. So our goal will be to derive these equations in tensorial form, and then when we are solving a particular problem, then at that time we will invoke a coordinate system. Okay, so in the Cartesian system this will be written as del Vx by del x plus del Vy by del y plus del Vz by del z is equal to 0. Right? Or suppose if a polar or the cylindrical coordinate system is more appropriate, then we will write the same thing, del dot V, as 1 by r del by del r of r times Vr plus 1 by r del V theta by del theta plus del Vz by del z equal to 0. So I hope you understand what I am saying is that basically the equation will be written in tensorial form, and then we will invoke a particular coordinate system while solving particular problems. So if suppose if the geometry is rectangular or something like that, then the Cartesian system would be more appropriate, and then we will write the incompressibility condition in this particular way. If we are using a polar coordinate or a cylindrical coordinate system, then it is more appropriate to use a cylindrical system then, and then we will use this particular form of the incompressibility condition and so on. Okay, so what I am trying to emphasize here is that we will derive first the tensorial form of the equation, and then as the situation demands, we will look at particular forms of that tensorial equation in various coordinate systems. Okay, so that is the idea here. Okay, so now let us look at how do we go about deriving these balance laws. Fine. So we'll first introduce the concept of a material volume. Okay, so first let us look at what we mean by a material volume. So a material volume is a collection of a fixed set of particles. Okay, so material volume. So this is the concept that I am introducing now. Material volume, collection of a fixed set of particles. Okay, so what do we mean by that? So suppose now you are considering a cantilever, right? Now you are considering some system of particles on this cantilever beam, and now imagine that it deforms. Okay, and now you are looking at the same set of particles as they are evolving. Okay, so that means nothing is entering into this material volume and nothing is leaving this material volume. So we are considering the same set of fixed particles as they evolve. So again, another example would be in fluid mechanics. That suppose you had some flow in a channel, and now you are looking at some blob of fluid, right? And then now it evolves, and then now it goes into some other shape. But again, we are considering the same set of particles. Okay, so that means nothing enters the material volume and nothing leaves the material volume. And then the choice of this material volume is completely arbitrary. So that means here I am considering this fixed set of particles, but I could have as well considered some subset of that whatever I had considered earlier. And then in that case, now I will consider the evolution of those fixed set of particles as it evolves. So basically what I am trying to say is that this is just a fixed set of particles, and we are monitoring them as they evolve in time, okay, due to the action of some forces or things like that. So this concept of a material volume is different than the concept of a control volume. Okay, so control volume is something that you will use very often in fluid mechanics. So there, actually, if you see, so you must have already got introduced to the concept of a control volume. So control volume is a fixed region typically in space. Okay, typically, I mean that can also evolve with time, but typically we take the control volume to be a fixed region in space. So that means we are now then considering that some flow is entering this control volume, and then some flow is leaving the control volume, right? So something is entering into the control volume and something is leaving the control volume, and this control volume is a fixed region in space, whereas the material volume is not a fixed region in space. So it evolves with time, but it is a fixed set of particles that we are considering. Okay, so you have to distinguish very carefully between a material volume and a control volume. Okay, so these are all examples of a material volume. So let me just write that material volume, and this is an example of a control volume. Now the most important thing to remember here is that the material volume is what we will use when we are deriving the balance laws. All the balance laws are actually in integral form, and they are first stated for a material volume, and then we will use the localization theorem, right, which we have introduced at the end of the tensor part of this particular course. We introduced this localization theorem. So we will use the localization theorem to go from the integral form of the balance laws to the partial differential equation forms of the governing equation. So this is the standard method that we will follow. Okay, so remember that all the balance laws are valid only for a material volume. So you cannot write a balance law. So for example, let us take the balance of linear momentum, for example, right? So the balance of linear momentum cannot be written directly for a control volume. Okay, so in some indirect way we can derive the balance of linear momentum form for a control volume by considering first the material volume, and then you sort of derive the control volume from that. So the fundamental starting point is always the material volume. This is what you have to always bear in mind, that all the balance laws, like whether it be balance of mass, linear momentum or angular momentum, they all have to deal with the material volume. And so the control volume forms are obtained later on as a so you have to start from the material volume and then you can derive the control volume from that. Okay, but the starting fundamental principles are all for a material volume. Okay, so that is something you have to bear in mind. Okay, so now having clarified what this material volume is, now let us look at what is known as the first transport theorem. Okay, so we'll look at this first transport theorem. First transport theorem. So this is again going to be very useful in deriving the various forms of the Gromov equations. So this I will abbreviate as TT1. Okay, so TT1 stands for transport theorem 1 because there is going to be a transport theorem 2 also. Okay, so this is the the transport theorem 2 I will cover after the balance of mass because that relies on the balance of mass. So this transport theorem 1 doesn't depend on the balance of mass, and so that is something that I will derive first. Okay, so let f of x comma t be a continuous and differentiable, be a continuous and differentiable scalar valued function. And let V of t be a material volume. Then integral of f of x comma t dv is a function of time alone. Is a function of time alone, and its time derivative is d by dt of f of x comma t dv of t is equal to del f by del t dv. This is keeping x fixed. This is v of t plus f v dot n times ds or s of t. Okay, so here there are lots and lots of different kinds of things that you need to note. So here you can see this f of x comma t dv is a function of time alone, right? Because see, it is like you are writing f is a function of x1, x2, x3 comma t, correct? And then dv would be dx1, dx2, dx3, right? So when you integrate this, so you are integrating it over the variables x1, x2 and x3, right? So after integrating it, it will remain only a function of time alone, right? So that is what is written here, that this whole thing is a function of time. And now you are taking the time derivative of this function, which is a function of time alone, and that derivative is given by this particular expression here. Now let us look at what is that v and what is that n and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can think about it that so you have this v0, which is now this is at time t equal to 0. This is your material volume. So this could be, let us say, some part of the cantilever, and you are considering some fixed set of particles here, right? So this is like some material volume that you are considering. Okay, as I said, this could be a blob of fluid. This could be the set of particles in a cantilever beam. So it doesn't. So at this stage, we do not distinguish between a fluid or a solid. These are general equations for any continuum. then now this V naught is going to some V of t, correct? So as I said that this is the same set of particles as it evolves, correct? And so nothing is leaving the material volume and nothing is entering the material volume, right? So we'll finally get this V of t here, right? Now, so the dy dt is of an integral that is over V of t f of x t times dv. Now, see, we cannot directly take this dy dt inside the integral sign because this v is itself a function of time. Okay, so this is many of you must be familiar with the Leibniz rule, right? So if you recall, you have a of x, b of x, right? And then some f of x y dy, something like that, right? So suppose if you had an integral of this particular kind, then if you recall, then this will have a contribution of dv by dx, right, times f. So evaluated at something. So if you recall, so there is one contribution due to del f by del x in this, and then there is also a contribution due to dv by dx and da by dx, okay, in this Leibniz rule. So in the same way, you cannot just simply because this is v of t, you cannot simply take this d by dt inside the integral. Okay, so in the proof, what we will do is that we will first transform this integral, which is over v of t, to an integral v0, okay, which is in the material volume in the reference configuration. Okay, and then now this v0 is not changing with time because that is evaluated at time t equal to 0. Then in v0 we can take the d by dt inside the integral sign. Then we will differentiate, and then again we will transform it back to the v of t. So that is what I am saying. See now, so that is why you get. I mean, if you just took this inside, you would get this term. But now because v of t is changing with time, so you get this additional term here. Okay. Now what is this v and what is this n? Okay. So this, as I said, see, there is nothing that is entering and nothing that is leaving. So this velocity is actually the velocity of this surface itself. Okay. As it is evolving. Okay. So this velocity is the velocity of every particle on this particular surface as it evolves. And n is the unit normal to that particular surface. So this is your s of t, and then this is your unit normal, and then the velocity. So you are taking the dot product of v dot n, multiplying it by f, and then integrating it over the surface d of x. Okay, so this is the first transport theorem. Now let us try to prove it. Okay, fine. Yes. So, yes. So as I said, so let us start. So proof. So d by dt of integral of f of x comma t times dv over v of t is equal to d by dt of integral of f tilde of j times dv naught over v naught. Okay, so now this f tilde is simply f tilde of x comma t is defined as f of x comma t, which is equal to f of chi of x comma t comma t. Okay, so this so if you look at f x comma t, x itself is this chi of x comma t. So this whole thing is a function of capital X. So this new function of capital X I am calling as f tilde. Okay, so this f tilde is defined as this f of x comma t, but now this f tilde becomes a function of capital X now. Okay, so all I am doing is that I am calling that as f tilde, and we have also noted this relation earlier. In fact, I have proved it that dv is equal to j times dv naught. So that is the relation that I am using. See now, so what we have done is that we have transformed the integral from v of t to v naught, and now v naught is a fixed material volume because that is at time t equal to 0. So you can now take the derivative sign inside this. So this is equal to now integral of del by del t of f tilde of j times dv naught over v naught. Okay, I will just erase this part here. So now this is all keeping capital X fixed, right? Because your X is just the original position of each particle, so that you are keeping fixed while doing this differentiation. But this whole thing, say any partial derivative keeping X fixed is nothing but the material derivative. So this is something that I have defined in some previous class here. So this is equal to d by dt of f tilde times j times dv naught, right? And now I can apply the product rule, because see, the material derivative obeys the usual laws of partial differentiation. See, finally it is a partial derivative, right? So it obeys the usual laws. So this is v naught of d of f tilde by dt plus f tilde by j times dj dj by dt dj by dt times j times dv naught. So all I have done is that I have divided and multiplied by j. So this finally it is just f tilde times dj by dt times dv naught. Right, now we can change this back to the material volume at v of t. Okay, so I will just write it here. So if I write it here, so this is equal to now integral of df by dt plus f by j times dj by dt times dv. See, that is, so what I am doing is that this j times dv naught is just dv, so this is over v of t, and this df tilde by dt I am now expressing it in the Eulerian form. So this is the Lagrangian form of df tilde by dt was the Lagrangian material derivative. Now I am simply expressing it as the Eulerian material derivative, and this remaining now, so as I said that f tilde is simply equal to f of x comma t. So I am just replacing this f tilde by f and then 1 by j times dj by dt. So now we will replace this 1 by j dj by dt by j by del dot v. So this is a relation I have introduced earlier, right? In the chapter on kinematics, we introduced this relation, right? Del dot v. So this is with respect to small x. So we have already introduced this relation. So now this is equal to, so let me just rewrite this. So this is equal to integral of df by dt plus f times del dot v times dv over v of t. And then now I can write, df by dt we can write as, so that is just the expression for a material derivative. Df by dt is del f by del t keeping small x fixed plus v dot del f. Right? So this expression we have already seen. So remember that this f is a scalar valued function, and so we can write it in this particular way here. And so let me just write that here. So this is equal to integral, let me just put a line here. So this is integral of del f by del t keeping x fixed plus v dot del f plus f del dot v, right? So times d. Now this v dot del f plus f del dot v, this can be clubbed together, and this can be written as del dot f of v, correct? So that so let me rewrite that part here. Yes. So I will rewrite that particular part. So now we will get, this is over, so this is all over v of t now. This is all over v of t. So integral of v of t, this is del f by del t x plus del dot f of v, the whole thing times dv. Okay. And now we can separate these two parts. So I can write this as del f by del t keeping x fixed times dv plus, now we can apply the divergence theorem to this one. So if you recall the recipe for the divergence theorem, So that was del by del xi goes to ni. Right? So that was the recipe that we had provided for the divergence, for applying the divergence theorem. So del dot fv will go to fv dot n. Correct? So this can be written as fv dot n times ds over s of t. Right? And so that completes the proof of the first transport theorem, right? Because so you can see that it is not simply just taking the derivative inside, there is an additional term. So this is exactly, as I said, this is exactly analogous to the Leibniz rule, where you need a derivative of the limits also when they are variable limits, right? So this is exactly, so you can think of this as a 3D version of the Leibniz rule. Yes. Okay. So let us generalize this now to a vector valued function. So here I had considered a scalar valued function. Now for a vector valued function, you can think of applying this to each component, right? Each component of a vector is a scalar valued function. So I can extend it. So if w of x of t is a vector valued function, is a vector valued function, then d by dt of integral of w of x comma t times dv over v of t is equal to integral of del w by del t, keeping x fixed, over dv over v of t plus integral of w times v dot n times ds over s of t. So all I have done is that I have taken f to be wi. Right? In the previous theorem, if I take each component of w as my scalar valued function, then for each, if I just replace f by wi, so you will get wi times v dot n, and then when you express that in vectorial form, then you will get this whatever I have written here. Right? So just it's a very straightforward extension from the case for a scalar valued function here. Yes. Okay, so now we are ready to look at the conservation of mass. Okay, so conservation mass or balance of mass, whatever term you prefer. Okay. So we'll look at that now. Okay. Okay. Fine. So let us look at balance of mass. So for each of these balance laws, we can have a Lagrangian version and an Eulerian version, right? The Lagrangian version will be in terms of the capital X, and the Eulerian version will be in terms of the small x, that is a spatial position vector. So first let us derive the Lagrangian version here, Lagrangian version of the balance of mass. So yes, so first let us define what we mean by density. Okay, so if you have now take a point here, and now suppose if you take some delta v, and then the rho at x comma t is defined as the limit as delta v tends to 0 or delta m by delta v. Okay, so suppose if the mass contained within some volume is delta m, and then as you shrink this delta v to 0 around this point, so this is at some specific x, if you shrink this volume to this particular point here, then whatever limiting value you get, that you define as the density. Okay, so this density is a function of the position, and it can also be a function of the time. And then we will also define rho tilde. Now, so if you recall, I am putting the tilde whenever I am looking at the Lagrangian version of that same variable, right? So then whenever I want to express anything in terms of capital X, I will put the tilde above that to indicate that it is a. So if you recall, we had put a tilde above the velocity also. So right, v tilde of x comma t. So this was the Lagrangian description of the velocity. So whenever I don't put a tilde, that will be the Eulerian version of the velocity and so on. So in the same way, when I don't put the tilde, that is just the Eulerian description of the density, and the Lagrangian description would be given by rho tilde of x comma t. So this is equal to, so the definition is just that it is rho of x comma t, which is rho of chi of x comma t comma t. Right? So this because x is chi of x comma t. So whatever function that you get as a function of capital X, then that will be this rho tilde. So that new function I am calling as rho tilde. Fine. Then now this rho tilde, if I evaluate at time t equal to 0, then I will call that as rho 0. So let rho 0 of x be rho tilde of x comma 0. So this is, now you can see, think of this as the density in the reference configuration, right? Because at time t equal to 0, the material volume is this V0, correct? And then it is evolving, and then it is going to this V of t, correct? So the density in this reference configuration is rho naught of x. So that is at time t equal to 0. So this, we have already said that the material volume is the same set of particles, right, as it evolves. So that means nothing is entering this material volume and nothing is leaving this material volume, right? So automatically you will get that if I integrate, right, the density in the material volume V naught, and if I integrate it over V of t, the density, then they should both be equal, because that is the total mass that is contained in this. So let me just write that. So this is rho naught of x times dV naught, this is over V naught, is equal to integral of rho of x comma t times dV. Right? This is over V of t. So you can see that rho naught is the density at each point, right, in the material volume V naught. Correct? And then rho of x comma t is the density in V of t. Correct? So actually it is the same set of particles that initially at time t equal to 0 they were occupying V naught, and now at time t, so this is t equal to t, and they are occupying this V of t. So because nothing is entering and because nothing is leaving, the total mass within V naught is going to be the same as the total mass within V of t. Right? So remember that there is nothing like volume conservation. Okay, so the volume can change, but the mass remains constant. Okay, so that this is an expression of this mass conservation statement. Now, again, here you have V naught and here you have V of t. So we cannot club them under one integral. So what we will do is that we will transform this to the Lagrangian description here. So let us do that. So what you will get now is the following. So you will get that integral of rho naught of x times dV naught is equal to, so this rho, when I transform, I will get rho tilde of x comma t times j times dV naught. So just exactly like what we had done earlier when we were deriving the first transport theorem, in exactly the same way you will get this particular thing. So rho naught x times dV naught, and so this rho itself is rho tilde and dV is j times dV naught. Now club them under one integral sign. So this is rho naught of x minus rho tilde of x comma t times j times dV naught is equal to 0, and so this is over V naught. Okay. Now we will use the localization theorem, right? Since the choice of V naught is arbitrary, so this is your V naught, right? And then so I can take any subset of this V naught as my material volume, or I can take any superset of that as my material volume. So the choice of this V naught is completely arbitrary, right? And so here this integral holds for all choices of V naught, and hence I can apply the localization theorem. See, if this V naught is not arbitrary, we cannot conclude that the integrand is 0, right? I already pointed out 0 to 2 pi of sin x dx, right? That is equal to 0, but sin x is not 0 within 0 to 2 pi. That is because you are considering only one fixed domain, whereas here the choice of the domain is arbitrary, and hence you can say that the integrand is 0. Okay, so this arbitrariness plays a very key role in showing that the integrand is also 0 because of this. So, okay, so let us now write that. So the Lagrangian statement of mass conservation can be written as, so by localization, by the localization theorem, we will get that rho naught of x is equal to rho tilde of x cot t times j. Okay, so this is the Lagrangian version of the mass conservation equation here. Right? So yeah, so this will hold for all times. So basically j is your determinant of AF, right? And so that also keeps changing at all instants in time. This also keeps changing in time, but as a product, it is this constant here at rho naught of x, right? So yes, so okay, so that shows us what the Lagrangian version of this is. Now let us go to the Eulerian version. So Eulerian version. So as I said that the generally the Lagrangian version is what will be useful in problems in solid mechanics, and the Eulerian version is what will be useful in problems in fluid mechanics, right? So let us now look at this Eulerian version. So here what we are saying is that we'll write this mass conservation in a slightly different way now. So this is dV is equal to 0 over V of t. So already we have seen that this V naught, right, material volume now goes to this V of t, right? So the mass that is contained within this V of t does not change with time, correct? So that is why we can write it as this rho dV is the total mass that is contained within V of t. So as this material volume evolves in time, then the rate of change of this particular quantity is equal to 0, because this quantity is a constant, right? So mass conservation means that the mass within that material volume remains the same, and so we can write the mass conservation equation in this particular way also. Now just apply the first transport theorem, correct? So then so by TT1, so this TT1 stands for the first transport theorem. Okay, so maybe for first transport theorem. So by that I can write this as integral of del rho by del t, keeping x fixed, is over dv, plus integral rho v dot n ds over s of t is equal to 0. So this is what we'll get. Okay, then we will, so again, so as to transform everything into one volume integral, we will apply the divergence theorem to this particular term here, right? And then we will express everything under one integral. So let us write that. So if I write this, I will get that integral of del rho by del t, keeping x fixed, times dv over v of t plus integral of del dot rho v times dv over v of t is equal to 0. So here I have just applying the divergence theorem. Applying the divergence theorem on this. So basically I have applied the divergence theorem on this particular term. So again that same recipe ni goes to del by del xi, correct? So that I am just using that. Okay, so the derivative sign will come on the entire rho v, because rho itself is also a function of spatial variables. Now club them together. So I can write this as del rho by del t, integral of del rho by del t, keeping x fixed, plus del dot rho v times dv is equal to 0. This is over v of t. Now again localization, right? Because see, the v of t is an arbitrary, right? So I could have chosen some subset of v of t as my material volume. So of course correspondingly your v0 would have been this fixed set of particles, and then as it evolves it becomes this v of t, or I could have chosen some other v of t, correspondingly this was the v0 for those set of particles. So again the choice of this v of t is arbitrary, right? And so this holds for all v of t, correct? This is holding for all material volumes v of t, and hence the integrand is 0. So by localization again, so by localization I will get that del rho by del t, keeping x fixed, plus del dot rho v is equal to 0. Okay, so this is the Eulerian form of the mass conservation equation, Eulerian version, right? So the previous thing, so this was the Lagrangian version. So let me just write it here. So this is the Lagrangian version of mass conservation, and this is the Eulerian version of the mass conservation equation. Yeah. So actually, I mean, you can sort of go back and forth between these two versions, but I will indicate that at a slightly later stage here, how to go from one to the other. So first let me just write an alternative form for this mass conservation equation. So this I can expand, this del dot rho v I can write as rho times del dot v plus v dot del rho, correct? So this I can write as, so from here I can write this as del rho by del t, keeping x fixed, plus v dot del rho plus rho del dot v is equal to 0. And now this term here, right, this term del rho by del t at keeping small x fixed plus v dot del rho is nothing but the material derivative, d rho by dt. So this is d rho by dt, right, that is the material derivative, plus rho del dot v is equal to 0. Right? So this can write it in this particular way. Right? So actually you can, as I was saying, that actually you can go back and forth between this Lagrangian version and this Eulerian version. So all you have to do is you differentiate this with respect to time. Okay. So try this on your own. So what you do is that you differentiate this with respect to time, keeping capital X fixed. Okay. So the derivative of this part will be 0, correct? Because this is not dependent on time. Then this you apply the product rule, right? So this will be rho tilde times del j by del t, keeping capital X fixed. So that is nothing but dj by dt, right? That is the material derivative dj by dt. Then plus j times del rho by del t, correct? Keeping capital X fixed. And then the dj by dt is nothing but j del dot v, correct? So that will be j del dot v. So you try it and try to see if you get this particular equation, starting from this particular equation, by differentiating this with respect to time. Okay. Then just one simplification that can result in this is the concept of incompressibility. So we will not need this concept in our course on solid mechanics, but I think I will just touch upon that point very briefly. Okay, so an incompressible fluid is one that so an incompressible fluid is one for which d rho by dt, which is equal to del rho by del t, keeping capital X fixed, is equal to 0. Okay, so basically see, it is like this, that suppose if x is the position vector at some point and you have the density here, right? So this is there is some density at capital X. Now this is evolving in time, right? This particle is moving in time, and now the density as it evolves remains the same. Okay, so that is what we mean by this. So, or del rho by del t, keeping capital X fixed, is going to be the same. Okay, so that is equal to 0. So the density does not of that particular particle does not change as it evolves. Okay, so this is what we mean by incompressibility. So this is not the same as the density remaining the. So this is not the same as del rho by del t at x equal to 0. Okay, so again I will illustrate that. But first let me just simplify that particular equation. So for an incompressible material, incompressible fluid, you will get that del dot V equal to 0, right, from star. So this is so if I write this as star, then d rho by dt is 0, so del dot V equal to 0. So from star, okay, that is what I will get. So this condition is definitely not intuitive. Okay, so suppose if one said that some material is incompressible or volume preserving, we cannot guess this particular condition, right? Del dot V equal to 0. So that is del Vx by del x plus del Vy by del y plus del Vz by del z equal to 0. At least physically it is not clear why this should be the case. But it follows from the mathematics, right? That if you keep this material derivative of the density to 0, of course, this is an approximation. So, in reality, no fluid is perfectly incompressible, but it's a very good approximation, right? For liquids like water or whatever. Okay, so especially for liquids, this is a very, very good assumption. And even for air also, if the velocities are low or if the Mach number is low, then actually you can use this approximation even for air also. Okay, so yeah, so let me just try to distinguish the d rho by dt from del rho by del t at x. So you imagine that you have some oil and water. Okay, oil and water. Okay, so now imagine that you know this oil particle is coming and occupying the particle which is occupied by the water particle, and then the water thing is going and occupying this particular thing here, right? So in this particular case, see, your del rho by del t at x is not 0, correct? Because see, now the density, so you are now looking at a particular position small x. This density is changing because initially it was the density of water, right? Now it is the density of oil, because at the next instant in time, when now this oil particle is coming and occupying it. But you can still make the assumption of incompressibility. So what you have to do is actually you have to follow that water particle as it is traveling into this oil domain, right? So that density is remaining a constant. So incompressibility doesn't mean that you are monitoring the density at a particular location in space. What you are monitoring is that as it evolves, right, some particle, as it evolves, that density is equal to, the rate of the change of that density is equal to 0. So this is the correct way to define the incompressibility. So I hope it becomes clear from this water and oil. So water and oil are both incompressible, right? Intuitively you can understand that they are almost incompressible fluids, and so this example shows that this is not the right thing, that del rho by del t keeping small x fixed equal to 0 is not the right idea for the incompressibility, whereas this is the right idea. And then as I said, that leads to del dot V is equal to 0. Yeah. Flow. No, yeah. So another thing is many times they talk about incompressible flow. Okay, so that actually is not a correct terminology. So let me just emphasize that also. See, they say incompressible flow. Okay, so this is not a correct terminology. Okay, so basically what is incompressible is the fluid. The fluid is incompressible, right? Not the flow. Okay, the flow is just some velocity field. Okay, so I mean, although this is used many times in the fluid mechanics books and also in the papers, you will see this kind of terminology, but it is wrong. I mean, it is wrong to use such terminology, because when you are talking of incompressibility, you are talking of the medium, right? You can say that rubber is almost incompressible, or oil is almost incompressible, or water is almost incompressible. So you are talking of the fluid. So actually, so what one should have is incompressible fluid or incompressible solid, but not flow. The flow is referring to some velocity field, right? So we should not say incompressible flow instead of this one. Okay, so this is just some terminology issue, but people understand what, so actually people understand that when they say incompressible flow, they mean incompressible fluid only, but I am just saying don't use such wrong terminology also. Okay, we'll stop.